Well, it's 7:02, and we don't have Mr. Brooks here, but let's get started. So, roll call. Mr. Black.
Here.
Mr. Black is here. Mr. Hines.
Here.
Here. Ms. Waterman.
Here.
And I'm John Hartwell, and I'm the chair, and I'm here. And we're missing Joss Brooks, unfortunately. So we have one item on the agenda for this evening. To consider and if appropriate, approve a request from the fire chief for the following fiscal year 24 transfer request from 101419040-588802 contingency for $70,000 to 1014240-544300 purchase services, repairs and maintenance. Chief, welcome.
Thank you.
And
This is Tom Mahoney, the fire chief, and this is Brian, my assistant chief, Kozak. For those of you who we haven't met yet. Yeah, so our request is from contingency for.
sorry,
Josh?
Yeah.
Josh is just arriving here.
Sure. We'll wait
I've been on time to anything in my life. Like a tired stone.
There we go. All right. Mr. Brooks has arrived. Thank you. Go ahead, Chief.
Absolutely. How are you? So this is for repairs and maintenance. Our repairs and maintenance account, unfortunately, this year has been pretty hard. We've had a lot of very expensive repairs, had to outsource them. Most of it involves to get to a lot of the parts on these complex machines. They have to do a lot of taking apart to get to what's broken. And then parts are fairly expensive as compared to we're still kind of catching up with this inflationary environment we're in because, for instance, apparatus is almost 40% more to purchase a new one than it was just 3 years ago. So parts and other things like that have kind of followed suit. And historically, we have never gone over in purchase services, repairs and maintenance. So we don't have a lot of history to really understand how, maybe we could have budgeted better at the beginning of the year. In a nutshell, that's it. And it goes across the fleet. The fleet currently on average is about 18 years old. So.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have one
Yes.
tangential, but I was seeing an ambulance parked on a street without any of the lettering on it yet. Do you have a new ambulance now?
No, all of our ambulances should be fully marked as Branford Fire Department.
Okay, with somebody else.
There's an old used one that's drives around town all the time.
Yeah. Okay, it didn't have any of the gold lettering.
There
I was
is
just-
one that
It's in our area.
one of ours we donated to the East Shore Health District, and I'm wondering if they haven't perhaps gotten the lettering in yet because it's been
Okay.
only a couple of months since we gave it to them. So
Okay, just a question.
yeah.
Thank you.
And then other like plumbers and stuff like to buy them for other reasons.
Yeah, maybe it was a plumber.
It's the only market we really have for old ambulances is to sell them at auction.
So Chief, what is the total budget on purchase services? Do you know?
We started out the year, I believe, at 194,000. And so let's go back like 5 years. I'm pretty sure we went 0%, 0%, 2.9, or 2.3, 2.9, and then this past year, almost 7 to try to keep up with all the pricing that we're getting. So purchase services covers not only repairs and maintenance, but it also covers some of our other purchase services, such as software we use for our scheduling and things like that. So they have gone up along with it. And, some of that's a little shocking, and it's increasing.
So it's purchase services and it's repair and maintenance?
And repairs and
Okay,
maintenance. Yeah.
get that. So
Now, currently, we're the last report I ran, we were about 54,000 short. We asked for 70 to try to get us to the end of the year. But out of that 54, we still have several blanket purchase orders encumbered, and those are for things like parts at our parts supplier. We do a lot of the work in-house, so we do save a lot of money. We have saved a lot of money over the last few years. We did lose our mechanic, who was kind of at a different level than our current guy, but these are firefighters who are certified to work on certain things who have stepped up to do so. And the best part of running it in-house is that not only do they save money, because they're paid at a much lower hourly rate overall than outsourcing, the apparatus tends to get back on the road fairly quick, which is, especially the ambulances, we have 5 of them, 3 of them are frontline units, and but the others are frequently called into service for call-ins, as well as backup repaired. So in those cases, those are the money makers, and we want to keep them on the road. When we do outsource, and we've been, since we lost Dan Giroli as our mechanic, Ricky Hart stepped up. He can work on a lot of the small stuff, so he takes care of the ambulances, the smaller vehicles, etc. He's getting more certified to some of the other stuff, but the larger vehicle brakes and whatnot, he's just not certified to do yet. But he does save us a significant amount of money, and like I said, it keeps things running. Even for minor repairs, if we were to, for instance, send an ambulance to the local Ford dealer to get fixed, it's a day to get there. They look at it, they order the parts, they fix it, they might find something else wrong with it. You don't get it back for 3 or 4 days. So that's really one of the things that we like about the in-house repairs, but unfortunately, it was the combination of things. It was kind of a 1-2 punch of losing our in-house mechanic who was more skilled, so we've had to outsource more, but we've also found that on the aging fleet, when we did our DOT inspections and our pump inspections, that it was time to do some major repairs on these things so they could pass.
Is there any plan to upgrade the skills of the person who's now?
He is going through the progression. For instance, he just got his ASE certification on brakes, so he can do small vehicle brakes right now, but he's certified. So that's we've always kind of since we've never had an in-house mechanic. When we built fire headquarters, we had kind of plans for that. And we started by purchasing the vehicle lifts, outfitting some of the tools, and then Dan Giroli really took it and ran with it, and over about a 8-year period really built it up so it was running pretty well. And then he's since retired, so Ricky's kind of in that learning curve right now to get up there. But historically, we've either outsourced or we've relied on Public Works mechanics, and they're again, they're not used to always working on the emergency vehicles, and it just kind of goes into line with whatever else they have to work on. So I think it's for instance, Engine 5 in Stony Creek is our newest fire engine. We don't see it at the mechanics bay. Engine 4, Engine 2, Engine 9 are all almost, 2 of them are 28 years old. One of them is 25 years old. And, they're showing their age.
What's the expected life?
20 years as a frontline piece is really the expected life, and then this is the standard. They get about 5 years of backup service. These have kind of exceeded that. One of the problems we run into is that the fleet was in horrible shape in the 90s, and in about between 92 and 2001, we bought 5 major pieces of apparatus. So that's less than a 10-year period. We bought a lot of very expensive pieces of apparatus. We're at that
So
time.
we're rollover
So
time.
we've tried to spread this out,
Yeah.
in the apparatus sinking fund, but unfortunately, we're at that point where we're going to have to probably bond at least one of them, instead of just doing the sinking fund, because the sinking fund has not caught up with inflation.
How much money's in the sinking fund?
Well, we just purchased a piece of apparatus. We were allotted $300,000 this year, so we have around, I believe it's around $400,000, but I'd have to double check. And we still have 2 scheduled vehicles to purchase this year, the Tahoes, to replace the 2012s, and then those typically get handed down to the town fleet. So they'll continue in their service, but not in the hard level they're getting now. And we cannot find any. So, that's another compounding issue. We purchased an ambulance, it'll be 2 years in May, and it's not still scheduled for delivery for several more months after that. So these things that used to take, an ambulance was about by the time they got the purchase order and the vehicle was, everything was signed and they were building it, it was a 4-month delivery time. Fire trucks typically anywhere from 10 months to a year. Now we're talking more than 2 years, more than 3 years. So we actually,
I'm sorry, more than 3 years for a fire truck?
for a fire truck, yeah.
Wow.
And
And the cost?
so we purchased engine 5, $524,000 in 2018. The engine 1 we just purchased, which would have been last year. We actually accelerated that purchase because we knew the price was going to increase another 6%, and because of the length of time, it'll actually be delivered in kind of the time frame we had originally specified, $899,000. So that's almost 2 years ago. So we're anticipating almost $1 million for a pumper, which, from our experience and, between the two of us, we have about 80 years of experience in the fire service, and things are very expensive now. And everybody's experiencing this.
So, just for clarification, so the contingency funds, is that under the fire department budget, or is that the general?
Contingencies
town?
in the general fund.
So that's the general
and-
fund contingency?
Yeah, and if I remember correctly from the meeting, there was still a significant amount of money left in the contingency
Yeah.
fund for this year. On a good news note, we are a revenue producer for the town. And for instance, last year we budgeted $1,825,000 was the revenue amount that we budgeted for. We pulled in $2.4 million last year. And this year we're probably going to exceed that. So
That's for ambulance runs?
for ambulance runs. So the ambulances run hard, and they run constantly, so.
I mean, that's not always a great thing.
Yeah, that's.
Right?
No, no,
We're
and it's not.
We're not rooting for more money.
We're certainly
Yeah.
not rooting for more money, but if we're doing the calls, we get the money. That's-
I mean, I'll call you tonight and see if I can take a ride. I have multiple questions.
Sure.
I'll start with one. We talked about the mechanic,
Mhm.
and you and I had an email right before the election, and I haven't followed up, but I will separately. But so you had the in-house mechanic. Now you have a new guy who's solely getting certified. But he is also a paid guy.
Yeah, so both Dante Giroli he did it on overtime.
Right.
And even with his overtime rate, he is, for instance, we pay $160 an hour to an outsourced mechanic. He made $37.81 for a straight time, and then half
Right.
again for half.
So my question is, like, there are guys out there I know that are diesel mechanics,
Mhm.
that truck diesel mechanics, and they're making, I would think, $50 to $60 an hour. I don't know. You just gave me a number of outsourcing monies, which was a number.
Mhm.
I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it was more than one human being, a mechanic of that nature, would make. So does it make sense for the town to look into hiring somebody who is solely the fire department mechanic, or and could do, maybe something on a dump truck for the town, but because especially we're talking about, and it's not a secret in the room that we're talking about putting another fire station in,
Mhm.
a paid fire station. So that's going to need apparatus as well. And you're talking about a lot of apparatus. I'll keep 5, 9, and 4. I'll keep those out of it,
Mhm.
right? Because those don't get the same wear and tear that one gets.
Right.
But it's a lot of apparatus. So if we're paying outsourcing or overtime $700,000 in repairs and cost of repairs, would it not make sense for us to hire somebody that's their sole job?
We have definitely discussed that, for sure. And so we would need to hire someone who's not only a certified diesel mechanic, but would eventually have to learn, pump and there's plenty of opportunity for schools and stuff. So absolutely 100% yes. It is something we would consider. A lot of, I've worked for the town for over 28 years. I'm in my 29th year. And, we've done a lot in that time frame. Multiple administrations have progressed us to the point we are now, but we've done so very conservatively. And, one of the things that has kind of, been hard to keep up with oftentimes, and it's been, we're getting there. But like I said, because of all that past apparatus, got really old. Infrastructure was allowed to basically crumble. And I'm talking about back in the late 80s, early 90s. It's taken us a while to catch up with that. The same thing is with the staffing level, and we've relied very heavily on the volunteers. They do a great job, but they're dwindling, and nobody is coming in behind them, despite our best efforts. We're not alone in that. I'm sure you guys see the news. Southington just had a big article. North Haven is experiencing the same problems. My history is with the Madison Volunteer Fire Department, Brian with North Madison. We're holding our own, but a fire that we used to handle in our own town with our own people now requires 5 town mutual aid. That may work in smaller towns where the house could burn to the ground and it's not going to affect the neighbors. It doesn't work here. And then when you put the medical, so my point is that we're focusing our needs on the operational side of it, the boots on the ground, and we kind of felt that if we started adding mechanics and other staff positions, which we could justify and use instead of us wearing multiple hats all the time, and really not giving some stuff the attention it might deserve, because we need people on the street. But it's a valid point, and I think it needs to be addressed probably sooner than later, because one of the things the mechanic could do, and what I would envision, is that this mechanic would be a certified firefighter as well. Their main job would be being the mechanic, but they could also drive the ladder truck, for instance. And the ladder truck's a necessary piece of apparatus for those bigger incidents, and it goes to every building fire. That's its primary role. But other than that, it's probably the least, but when we need it, we need it. So that could solve, instead of just having a permanent driver, that could be kind of a dual role for that person in the future. And we get more bang for our buck.
So I think that's a discussion we should continue, and I don't want to take up this meeting to do that.
Sure.
Because that's part of why I was calling you or emailed that day.
Yeah.
And that was my whatever. So I'll leave that alone. My next question is, and this is gonna get me in big trouble. So I don't remember. I know you have engine 1 and you have the ladder truck, and I want to say there's another engine there.
Engine 7.
Engine 7. So engine 7 is getting older.
Engine 7 was, so what happened in the plan over the years is that because we replaced so many pieces of apparatus, engine 1, which is typically the only paid engine that we have, it obviously gets a lot more wear than a volunteer engine. For instance, engine 4 is 28 years old, but it only has about 30,000 miles on it. They're hard miles, but it has low mileage. Engine 1's got, engine 7 currently has 128,000 miles on it. A lot harder miles. We're using that as our spare and backup for engine 1, and then when engine 1's busy, we do a lot of jumping around, so we might take 2 people on the ambulance to respond with the fire truck when that's needed instead of the ambulance. The plan is to start moving, and buying when we buy a new piece, it'll become engine 1, and engine 1 will get back down.
Right.
We're going to after we purchase engine 5, the commission and I agreed that we would start back into that process where we wouldn't be replacing slower volunteer units with new pieces. We would be giving them the back. One of the problems we run into with the volunteers is the station size. Engine 2 and engine 4, you can't fit engine 1 into it. And you can't fit engine 7 in. They're just, the ceilings are low. They were built. Engine 2 is a 125-year-old previous barn, but that company's been there for a long time. So You know, and a little bit to your point about the future, I was asked, well, you know, if we add more paid personnel, we build a third station, do we need more apparatus? We don't, because we're only replacing, we have the equipment, we don't have the manpower. So, you know, the idea is that what is currently a volunteer house would become a paid house. And, you know, as the volunteer contingent becomes smaller, because it's all about numbers with the volunteers. You know, if you were to call right now, out of the less than, we went from 27 interior certified volunteers last year to 25 this year. And we have a few, you know, we have a few in the pipeline, but that's kind of how it's going. We get a few, get it for a couple of years, they go off and they get jobs as, you know, paid firefighters, or most of the kids coming in now are here for a job. But we won't need as many pieces, and the equipment's already here. It just needs to, we just kind of continue the replacement cycle. But because, you know, we're running into that wall where we're at that point where we bought so many pieces of apparatus in a short period of time, we currently have engine 1 purchased. We hope to purchase what would be the replacement for engine 9, but hopefully by then we'll have a paid crew to utilize it. And then we can split the town up a little bit more duty-wise. So instead of engine 1 running as hard as it is, you know, they're picking up a little of that slack. So that's kind of the, and then eventually, when we do out east, we're also eliminating the Short Beach station, because honestly, you know, this is not it's an open secret now. Engine 4 in Short Beach hasn't left that barn for actual call, unless it's a drill night, or you know, in years. You're just, their membership has dwindled so bad. They're really combined with 2s, and if they get out, it's a combined company with 2s, members of 9s, and 2s. So, you know, we're able to get 1 out, but the others aren't going to get out. So that's kind of the situation we're in these days. And as the call volumes go up, you know, a lot of it again is we're answering the first responder call for the next heart attack or the next stroke. Then we're going to a fire alarm, a motor vehicle accident. You know, while actual fires are the least amount of what we do these days, they happen. You got to get there, and you have to get there with the correct amount of people in a timely fashion to make any difference.
Well, I hear you did pretty well on, was it Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah, Saturday.
You did
Well,
well on that
again,
day.
when is it? When did our fire happen? Sunday afternoon, when all our volunteers were here, and we were able to get 2 engines out, which was great. Engine 5 and engine 2. Today we had a fairly busy afternoon. Engine 2 was dispatched, and we had to pull the paid staff down at 9s to go cover East Haven because they had that big oil fire. And that's just, you know, there was no response from engine 2.
So we're going to be obviously in the future covering both of those issues, the staffing issues and the additional firehouse. And so we'll get a chance at that point to go much
into
deeply.
detail.
Yeah, much into the detail. Tonight I want to make sure that if there are any more questions around this particular item. Pete?
Mr. Chairman, just, I mean, when we're talking about cost, I mean, one thing that we should all be aware of is when he's talking about the pay rate or whatever, there's a lot of overhead that's not on his departmental budget. He's talking, you know, $37 an hour or whatever plus half, but you're not covering out of your budget the workers' comp, you're not covering the health insurance, all of that is centrally funded from HR or finance.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and so when we talk about, you know, what we're paying somebody or what we might pay a mechanic, et cetera, again, you know, when you pay the $160 to the shop, you know, I know I take my car to a mechanic, what I pay is not what the mechanic's making. There's a lot of overhead, so, you know, we just need to be aware of that when we're talking about the numbers.
Mhm.
But other than that, you know, I guess there's no, you know, I'll make the motion to approve the 70,000. It's got to be done.
Okay, thank you. So are there any other questions from the group here? Anyone in the audience have any questions about this? No? Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All those who are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstentions? looks like it's 5-0. Congratulations. Thank you very much for
Appreciate
coming
your
in.
support as always, and look forward to exploring this a little bit more. To your point, the numbers that we do use in our staffing plan, we included the benefit costs.
Okay.
So that we could fully show what the cost of our staffing plan would be.
Right.
Because we want to make sure that everybody sees everything.
Do you know when that's gonna come forward?
It'll be coming as part of the budget process, which the Board of Finance, my understanding is that they'll start the budget hearings in March, and it'll come before you in April, I believe.
Yeah.
I think they pushed it out a little bit more this year, the process. So there's more time for deliberation on these things, but they're all important things, and I think they need to be given their due diligence. That's why we tried to get ahead of it a little bit, because you know how the budget process is. It's, you get to say a couple things, just show us the highlights, and then boom, you're out. So we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Sorry, you, Tracy?
It will be, the staffing plan's gonna be heard and reviewed by the Public Services Committee tomorrow night
Good, okay,
to give it more airing.
okay. That's right, you had mentioned that, Chief.
Yep,
Yes.
Brian's going to be
Brian will-
presenting that
Okay.
tomorrow.
Okay.
And that'll be soon.
That's a Zoom, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's,
that'll be soon.
That's soon, okay, great. Anyone else? Ray, Frank? Anything? No? All right.
Thank
Thanks
you
very
all.
much.
All right,
Good.
thank you. Have a great night. Appreciate it.
I think we're done here for this evening. Thanks very much.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion?
Aye.